Okay, guys. So where we left off, I think we just picked up the fire arrows from this island, and yeah, we've just completed the water temple. So there are 2 more temples left to complete, and Navi's already trying to get my attention. But you'll notice that I'm not immediately warping out of this place. It's mainly just because I'm not entirely sure, but I think, considering that there's a particular song that would have been ideal to warp with that I haven't picked up yet, so we're making the long track ride instead. But we'll enjoy the scenery as we go along. To my knowledge, I think at this point, knowing just Minuet of the Forest, Bolero of Fire, and Serenade of Water isn't particularly helpful in terms of getting me back to where I need to go. So it's actually a little bit easier just to walk this. So now you can see from this side why we never really attempted going to Lake Hylia from that start, because there are these big gates that Link actually can't get over by himself. Shut up, Navi. Let's see what she has to say. Okay, yeah, that's that's really not very helpful at all. It's funny actually playing this through again. I realise how unhelpful a lot of what Navi actually says. I would say her primary use really is if you're stuck and you're not quite sure what to do next. She's supposed to give you a hint about what you might need to do to progress the story. But yeah, that's a bit of a nothing hint, if you ask me. I think I am going to swing by, just because it's sort of on the way anyway, I'm going to swing by the Temple of Time, which I believe you can do this at any stage after you complete the Forest Temple. So you have to at least complete the first temple as an adult before you can come back and do this. But simply returning to the Temple of Time does trigger another song that you can learn. It was one of those things that I realised this pretty quickly on my first playthrough, even though again thinking about my very early teenage years and how my mind must have worked back then. But I was pretty sure that there was a certain stage where you would come back and something would be different before the end of the game, if that makes sense. Just because of the way that Sheik stands, the way he sort of stands over the pedestal of time, and just kind of doesn't let you approach it again. So I figured there must be something that would happen if you came back. Okay, prelude of light. Okay, so it's really interesting to me the way in which they've structured that cutscene, because obviously uh, it's, they've kind of made it a bit neutral in the way that Sheik initially just says, you broke the curse and release the sage. Doesn't make any specific reference to the forest temple, which I assume is on purpose, just because you could be like me now. You could be coming back at any stage later in the game after you've completed several temples, I guess. Yeah, it does then say you must go over mountains and underwater. So it kind of does make a slight sort of judgment that you will be coming back to that point. You will be coming back to the Temple of Time immediately after you complete the Forest Temple. Which to be fair, in my first playthrough I did, because I was still exploring and what I just wondered if Sheik would still be there, still guarding the pedestal. So yeah, interesting that you can. Once you get to this stage, you can go back in time. You have to complete the Forest Temple first, and then you can return the Master Sword to the pedestal, which I will be showing you, because it is actually essential to the story that happens. Just think there's a cutscene that gets triggered here. I'm wondering. I might just wait until day, just because I think that cutscene looks a bit cooler in day. But yeah, no, it's interesting that that's the way that they phrased it. I think that I think you can actually. Actually, I was going to say I think you can release all the sages before you have to trigger that cutscene, but that's not true. Yeah, you have to actually return to the Temple of Time. At the very sort of latest, you have to return to the Temple of Time after this next dungeon that we're about to do. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this triggers a cutscene now. Returning to Kakariko. And of course, Sheik does his disappearing act. But yeah, okay. It probably didn't make much difference whether I came here in day or night. I guess I think it could well have been one of those scenes that as when you're a child and you see Princess Zelda escape from Hyrule Castle. I think it doesn't really matter what time of day. Maybe it might just change the sky accordingly. But yeah, one thing that really strikes me about that scene is that that did not look how I remember it on the N64, and even playing on the GameCube later, you know, when I was playing the version that came with Wind Waker. Yeah, that shadow across the floor, I don't think it's supposed to look like that at all. I think that's the emulator that's struggling to render that image for some reason. But so anyone who's interested in what it actually looks like, I'm sure that you can find a scene for that on YouTube. But yeah, so we've heard that there's a power released from the well. I'm actually not gonna play the Nocturne of Shadow, even though you can't access this dungeon unless you play it. It's one of these sort of mandatory songs you have to learn in order to access the dungeon in the first place. Aside from the fact that you can't actually get through to where the dungeon would be without entering Kakariko Village in the first place, so you sort of have to learn that song to even approach completing this dungeon. So the well, we can see it has released an evil spirit, you could say. If you try and go down the well now, as you can see, there's like a bit of a ladder here. It's sealed off. There is no way to gain here. But this is where it first becomes useful to play not the Nocturne of Shadow, but to play the Prelude of Light, which we learned previously. Oh, no. Yes, I got that wrong. And we will return to the Temple of Time, because this is the first instance where it actually becomes not actually essential, but it becomes, I would say, still pretty necessary, especially if it's your first playthrough, to come back to the Temple of Time and activate the cutscene that will turn you back into a child. So we need to return the Master Sword back to its pedestal. Okay. So it's interesting to see Link back in green now. Actually, that's kind of made for a bit of a stark change. But yeah, so we're Child Link again. That's interesting. I remember my first playthrough. I always wanted to. As soon as I became Adult Link, there was this kind of innate fear. I just thought, oh no, the world's completely been decimated. I just want to be a kid again. And oh, that's interesting. Link's like a ghostly white in the distance there. Okay. I just want to be a kid again. And I realised that just seeing Sheik kind of defending the pedestal there, I sort of realised instantly. Okay, there is I've played enough video games by this point to understand that that's part of the mechanic that you can, as much as you can go forward in time, there will be an option in the game at some point to return to the state as a child, which makes sense because that's why would you only ever travel forward in time? But yeah, so this section isn't essential, and I say that because generally speaking, I think the game developers had it in mind that you should do this. This is part of the game. This should be done. This is the way that the game should be played. But you could well complete if you knew the game well enough, and you frankly, if you knew the next temple that we will access as an adult, if you knew that like the back of your hand, then you probably wouldn't need to do this next section, because what we're actually going to do is acquire an item that is pretty much designed to help you complete the next dungeon. I don't really want to give away too much more than that, but I think dark, narrow, scary. I've never read that sign before, actually. That's quite interesting. I think this is right. No, apparently that's not right. There's a way that I can drain the well as a child, and I've got how you do it. Oh, okay, yeah, no, you have to, yes, so this is something I haven't done yet. You have to turn to, I think it's here. This is the, yeah, of course, yeah, okay. Turn to Guru, who, at the moment, he's very happy. So yeah, you have to play the Song of Storms inside the windmill. Okay. So now this will be forever, well, forever messed up, really. But as you can see from the cutscene, the main effect that we've had is that we've drained the well. So as an adult, if you try and as an adult, if you try and get down here, the way will be sealed. What you can do is get down here as a child and find it open to you. suppose one nice advantage of coming back as a child is you get to retain all the hearts that you achieved as an adult. So yeah, look at the eye tree. That's a big clue, and you'll see that yeah, anyone who wouldn't realise that there's something very special about this area of the game would probably have turned back. But yeah, this wall is completely. Well, I don't. I'm struggling with the word, but yeah, you know what I mean. It's you can walk right through it. There's basically this whole little section here. Again, this is a mini dungeon that we will do before. Ooh, yeah, okay. That we will do prior to the main dungeon. Where all the secret bits are. Oh, wow. Okay, that was lucky. I think you come out of that side, and then you just have to come back here. So yeah, you can see that there are a number of different ways that you can run in and around this dungeon and walk through these invisible pathways. I do know that in this room in particular, there's a number that drop you down to some pretty dangerous levels. I think there's oh yeah, yeah, that wasn't great. I forgot how treacherous this place can be, actually. Redeads. These guys are annoying. I think they're redeads. Yeah, redeads. Tap any button to escape. Yeah, they can be quite annoying. There is a section in Kakariko Village where you can learn a song called the Sun Song. Again, I haven't gone through, and because there's not a lot of use to it other than against redeads, in my opinion, and you don't encounter too many of them. And to be honest, a lot of the time they will just sit there. So I didn't really think it was essential to really go through that in terms of just completing the story. But you can use the Sun Song to freeze any redeads that might be in your path. Yeah, you can learn that in Kakariko Graveyard as a child. I don't think you can do it as an adult though. It's really haunting wearing headphones and listening to the music, actually, because I keep thinking that you know, a ceiling master, whatever they're called, will come down and grab me. It's making that kind of song. It's gonna ignore this guy. I think this is either I think this is the compass. I'm gonna put my money on compass. Oh, that's the map. Okay. Well, that actually helps more. The map is more compass, I think. Yeah, I mean, these guys are so slow that you can pretty much just run past them, to be honest, even when they do freeze you. That's interesting. Navi's activating here. I think maybe you can, if you play the Song of Time there, you can get little access ways or something like that. I forget totally. But again, I don't think it's something that's essential to this. Okay, so yeah, we're back into the section that I ran through before. So it's just something to remember that if you fall down, if you do fall through one of the holes, that are seemingly many holes in this room, just remember that you have to collect all of those silver rupees in order to actually escape back up. Oh no! Wow, that hole is a lot closer to the front than I thought. Okay. Wow, okay, that's... I did not think they could freeze you that when you were that far away from them, but apparently they can. I don't think they can freeze you when you're on a ladder, but I could be wrong. So yeah, they just to kind of clarify things, that the first dungeon which you, as far as I'm aware, and I think this is right, the first time you absolutely have to return as a child in order to complete the game, I think is the final dungeon. You know, you just cannot progress unless you you would do a certain part of that as a child. With the next upcoming temple. I would say it's highly recommended, because what will happen is if you try and do the adult dungeon without try and do this without screwing it up. Okay, I don't think there's any way that you can actually get in there for this stage. Oh, they can freeze you while you're on a ladder. That's interesting. Okay, that answers that question. Yeah, you absolutely have to come back as a child to do the final temple. But the reasoning, I think, that you wouldn't try and do the adult stage of the next temple without doing this part is because you'll have exactly the same problem that I'm having at the moment, really, where you're walking around blind. But what the item in this place will do is that it will enable you to see all the pitfalls that you might encounter. So, I think there's another hole here. So, I'm struggling with the controls here. Okay. A part of me does wish that I'd invested in a proper N64 controller for this playthrough, because I feel like it would have felt a lot smoother, and it would have done more for the nostalgia element for me as well. I think there's another hole here, if I'm not careful. Really? I was hoping for a small key. Okay, yeah, that's another. Ooh. I'm trying to hug the walls as much as I can, just because I know that see that there's a Triforce on the floor. So again, that rule of thumb, anytime you see the Triforce, and especially if it's on the floor, you want to play that theme. Again, I was hoping for a small key there, but hate this bit. I really, really hate this bit. Yeah, the dead hand. Oh, it's absolutely disgusting anyway. To my understanding, I think you do have to let yourself be caught in order to escape. So just keep tapping A, and you can get out. He will steadily lower his head if you just stay close to him. You can just get a few swipes in. I think the one time that he can actually hurt you is actually if he happens to come up from the ground really close to where you are at the start, and then he just lowers his head quickly and bites you essentially. But generally speaking, that shouldn't happen. Usually you can get through this battle without losing any hearts, I think. Oh! Okay, this is an instance where it might... Yeah, it's whether if it grabs you twice... Oh, okay. Maybe I was wrong. Okay, so yeah, basically, if you get caught more than once, you'll probably take some damage from the looks of it. Generally speaking, I think you, with that knowledge in mind, you can just head in the direction away. Oh, yeah. Pressing A enough then. Oh! Okay, so slightly more difficult than I thought, actually, than memory serves. Okay, the lens of truth. And I'm quite pleased that I've got the lens of truth now, because I embarrassed myself enough by falling in enough holes so far. But basically what the lens of truth will do is it will deplete your magic, but it will enable you to see things that are hidden. Which I think... Yeah, you can see there's an invisible chest in here. Oh no! Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. Okay, that's good for you guys to know that there's 200 rupees in here if you could carry it, but you know, I've just haven't been bothering with any of these wallets, so. Oh, that's nice. I like that I can do that. Okay. So now what we need to do, I don't think there's anything in here that you can use the lens of truth to reveal. But essentially all of these kind of invisible walls, whatever you want to call them. Maybe I should call them invisible pathways rather than, because, you know, you can't see through them. Yeah, when you're using the lens of truth, you'll be able to see through it. So, there's an example. Alright. So again, yeah, we're sort of back to where the beginning of this area was. Quick. Ooh. That guy's big. I hate bubbles as well. Oh, okay, yeah, I remember now. There's a hole right in the middle of that. Okay. So basically, how the hell do you get to that chest then? wall monster. Finally got the name of it after all this time. Oh, okay, you're supposed to come in around the back there. Makes sense. Ooh, shoot. From this side? Okay, yeah. Ooh, don't want to fall down that hole again. I think this is the compass, which might help us get around a little bit more. It's always annoying when you get a recovery heart in a chest and you don't even get it. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay. Yeah, this is. Yeah, those. I think it's called a gibdo. Oh. Okay. Oh, that's not fair. I didn't think it would do that, but yeah, essentially the game continues to. Oh wow. Okay, they've decided they want to be fire keys. That's not good news for me. The game decided to keep the sort of Deku stick counter running during those cutscenes, which to me, that seems like bad game design, to be honest. But you know, this is the 90s. Things are a bit more rudimentary than they are these days. Oh, you're joking! Okay, so now you can see why. Oh god, why Keys is so annoying. Yeah, okay, so okay, that helps. To be honest, as soon as you get the lens of truth, I don't think you need to stay here. There's not. I think there are a few other secrets that we can. You know, we'll go through now, considering that I've gone so far as to lose my shield for it anyway. Yeah, that strikes me as a really bad game mechanic. That you know, during this entire cutscene here, my Deku stick is still diminishing. I think. It doesn't help. But yeah, be wary of the keys in this room. I forgot that they can basically set themselves on fire and destroy your shield. So very much the same warning as in Dodongo's cavern. I think what I will do, because I'm probably not going to get to the stage in the game where I buy another Deku shield. So what we can do, I think. Set these guys on fire. No! No, 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 no. Okay, maybe not. I'm very rapidly tapping A. Try and get rid of this guy. Bats. God, I hate bats. Okay, this guy. I didn't think he was going to get me that quickly. Oh no! No, no, escape. Escape, because I'm just going to keep whacking that. And it's not going to register a hit. Okay. Yeah, like that. Oh no! Way to glitch out, game. That's great. That's wonderful. Anyway, now that we've cleared the area, finally, take a good look at all these coffins and just see what's hanging about. Presumably that small key that I've got is the only interesting thing in these, but let's take a look. One of the reasons that I want to go through here is that I think most of my playthroughs, after I kind of worked out, you know, what you have to do and where to go, I never really explored much more in this dungeon other than just, right, okay, I got, you know, as soon as I got the lens of truth, I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. That's all I really need. So it's interesting to kind of check some of these other rooms. You know, you don't need any small keys to get the lens of truth. Begs the question that what can you do in there? To be honest, it's probably going to be something along the lines of it's going to be something along the lines of I would imagine that there's some gold skulltula, something like that you can't do unless you explore the rest of the dungeon, something like that. That's the first thing that comes to mind, but we'll see. So, one other thing I wanted to mention, it's kind of been on my mind, and I was kind of saving it for whatever quiet moment I might have to talk about it. Was really that I think, again, I don't know if this is a real theory. It's not something that I've actually researched, but it's something that kind of comes to mind now that when I think about it. Is I have this kind of idea in my mind that, okay, maybe, you know, are all the sages, when we discover them, are they dead? And it's a question of that never really gets answered. Okay, yeah, there's a gold skull there. I mean, I'm gonna get it just because I've gotten this far. So yeah, it's because I think you know, you don't encounter Saria throughout the entire, you know, adult episode, as you might call it. So you could assume maybe that she's, you know, again, she went to the Forest Temple. Maybe she was still living at this point, and then in the process of trying to fend off against Phantom Ganon, or, you know, repose one of the other monsters in that dungeon. Perhaps, you know, she perished. You know, it's a possibility, and then her spirit lives on as a sage. Again, none of this is explicit. This is kind of, just kind of take this as a possibility. Yes, thank you, Nevi. Again, I've got the compass, but I'm not going to bother with all the rest of the hoo-ha. I think I've realised that, yeah, it's pretty much going to be gold skulltulas from here on out. We've got one for. But yeah, so Zarya could well be. She could well be dead in this scenario. Darunia, Darunia, I actually think is the strongest hint that might be the case, because you see Darunia enter Volvagia's boss room, and then you never see him come out. Suddenly, the next time you see him, he's a sage, and he's you know, bequeathing you the fire medallion. So there's a lot of hints here and there. I think that you know, the sages actually, when you either in the period from when you see them and in the beginning of, you know, prior to completing a dungeon, to up to the point where you actually complete it. I think there's a possibility that they actually do die, and it's in sort of in death that they become a sage. Again, none of this is really explained or even or even hinted to in any sort of explicit way. But it's just something that I noticed, and I think you know, it's something that could well be a possibility. I'm sure that if I googled it, you know, within a couple of minutes, I'd find some forums that kind of mention that idea as well. I say that it's a possibility that's something that's not widely talked about. I did Google the Dark Link, basically just Dark Link just being pushed out of bounds. And I'm sure there's other wording that you could use to say out of bounds, but you know, off map or something like that. But I did do a quick Google search, and I couldn't find anything that related to that. So again, maybe that's another sort of slightly more esoteric part of the game. I could just play the Prelude of Light, but I honestly think it's just easier for me to walk in at this stage. Another question is whether it's... I used to say prelude, and then I started saying prelude. I don't know. Again, I think the pronunciation really comes down to whether it's British English or American English. But everywhere I go these days, people say prelude, so I just say that these days. Oh, it's nice to see Death Mountain in a normal state. I think I failed to mention it before, but when you come out of here as an adult, which we will, because I could immediately, I'll immediately play the Nocturne. Oof, I missed that. I'll immediately play the Nocturne of Shadow, but I'll quickly show you guys. I love that they kept that intro in. But yeah, I'll quickly show you guys that giant red ring around Death Mountain has disappeared now that we've completed the Fire Temple. Yeah, so you can see that horrendous luminescent red ring that was kind of, it's basically symbolising that Volvagia was still tormenting it, has disappeared. What I'm going to quickly do is just get Link back, looking back to how he usually should, and actually I'm going to remind myself of the Nocturne of Shadow as well. Left, right, A, down. Okay. And I always think it looks really cool when you walk from an area like this where Link's at a distance. So you'll see that the Nocturne of Shadow has walked us to the graveyard in Kakariko, but to an area that would be inaccessible if we had tried to do it through any other means. Okay, so you can see there are loads of torches here, and quite an ominous, actually, now I think about it, because it's something that I haven't looked at too closely in the past. Quite an ominous Eye of Truth, or a Sheikah symbol, I should say. And you can... Oh, there you go. Okay, so again my emulator's slightly failing, and it's just showed up once you're on that platform. That's interesting. It shows you the full detail there. Well, I think you can make out little Triforces along the rim here. That's interesting. I've noticed that detail before. But what you need to do here is stand on this this pedestal, in which there's like a bit of a... you can see, in fact, I think there's a detail of the fire medallion, which is not the best hint, I don't think, but hint enough that fire is your way through. So when when I said previously that Din's Fire would be essential to completing the game, that there is no way to complete the game without it if you're playing, you know, in terms of a normal glitchless sense, then yeah, you have to use Din's Fire to first of all open the dungeon, and I think there are certain stages in the game where it's pretty either useful or essential to complete the dungeon. Alright, I'm just going to use the long shot here, and it should trigger, I believe, it should trigger a little text box once you try that out. Okay, yeah, the shadow will yield only to one with the Eye of Truth handed down. Okay, so I'm going to leave this playthrough here, just because we've entered the Shadow Temple now. And you can tell already that there's going to be a lot of use of the Eye of Truth. That's going to help us get through. I probably could have tried to do it without it, but I would only end up embarrassing myself even more than I have. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and tune in next time.